Hey everyone, Steve Martinelli from Equinix here at KubeCon Paris, and with me right now is Denise Schannon. I hope I'm saying that correctly.
Yes, that is how you pronounce my name.
All right. So Denise, why don't you tell the lovely people out there who you are, what company you work for, a little bit about yourself, all that kind of stuff.
Yeah, sure. My name is Denise Schannon. I am the VP of Engineering at Loft Labs. This is actually day 4 of Loft Labs, so just started. I'm super excited. Previously, I was at Rancher, which was acquired by SUSE, running engineering teams there.
Okay. So day 4, I can ask all the hard questions, right?
Yes, day 4, I got it all down. I'm ready.
Did you take all the required training yet?
No, I have not signed all the policies for onboarding yet. I have not completed that task, but it is on my to-do list.
I think they give you about a month or so. You're good.
Yeah, maybe, hopefully.
All right. So you mentioned Rancher before. Obviously, you've been in the open source world for a while now. Tell me a little bit about how Loft is in this cloud native world, how they're in the open source world. Tell me a little bit about that.
Yep. So they are the makers of vCluster. That's their main flagship product, I think. And then they also have another product called DevPod, which is also open source.
Okay.
And so they have 2 open source products, and then they are also, I think, the maintainers of DevSpace, which is a CNCF donated project.
Okay. Yeah, I've noticed that vCluster and Loft Labs have been in the. I've seen their booth at many a KubeCons now.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's really cool that you've joined them. So congratulations on that. Also,
Thank you.
Yeah, that's awesome. It's a huge opportunity.
Yeah, I'm super excited of the opportunity of growing. The team there's already a great engineering team. It's growing and figuring out what and how we're going to position. And as all startups are, it's there's so many things to do. So figuring out where do you focus on that.
Well, and that's so. Okay, so you said that's how most startup teams are. So was Rancher a startup when you joined, or
Yeah. So I joined about 6 months after the founding team.
Okay.
I joined in as kind of I think my official title was software engineering, but I will be honest that I don't think I wrote one lick of code while I was at Rancher. I've made PRs, but nothing substantial contribution-wise. But I love the idea of joining a startup, and whatever you do, you fill in whatever gap is needed, and that was really my role there to begin with. And so I started off in QA, I started off doing training, writing. I was the first tech writer, project management, doing just kind of everything and whatever possible.
You just wore all the hats.
I wore all the hats when I was there. And then eventually, luckily I can understand and talk the tech, and so eventually just moved into engineering management as the company grew to a size.
That's awesome.
And then having to basically hire people to replace the duties you're doing because you're giving too much.
I always say my goal is to either automate myself out of a job or to coach people to do my job, and then I can go do other more interesting things.
Yeah.
Okay, so that's awesome. So now you can kind of replicate the success that y'all had at Rancher, but over at Loft Labs now.
That's what I'm hoping.
That's what you're hoping.
Yeah.
And you're a VP of engineering. So what type of stuff does a VP of engineering do?
I think a lot of it is going to be balancing out the needs of what the engineering team needs, but also I see, especially as a VP of engineering, you can't only focus on engineering. It's kind of how do I work with product and sales and support and holistically look at the company as a whole of what is the engineering team not only delivering, but how are we working with these other departments?
Yeah, it's always the higher up the chain you go, the more people across the company, the more cross-functional you kind of have to be.
Yeah.
So I've noticed within my own career, all of a sudden we have to talk to marketing and sales and the events team. And, one thing I've always found interesting is that there's always some misalignment happens when there's maybe something is a high priority for me, but it's not a high priority for you. And I find that's a common source of miscommunication between teams.
That's often a big disconnect around teams, but that's something I think in a former life I was a project manager and I lived that. That's the life.
That was your life?
Yeah, that was my life and that hat I live on. And I think project management to me is all about communication and aligning everyone on priorities.
It's true.
And so if I take that kind of mentality in life mindset forward and apply that to engineering but also across the functions, then the goal is like, right, sales is always going to have a different priority than what I think is important. But like, as long as we can align on why one is a higher priority or not, or challenge them of why should I change my priorities for you, and have that open dialogue. I mean, that's the way you become successful, I think, is to have that.
Yeah, and you know, just not do anything about it generally doesn't help.
Yeah, no. So like, I'm all about bridging the gaps. I've already joined, as I said, day 4, and like, I think day 2, I met one of our salespeople, and they're like, "I'm about to be your best annoying friend," and I was like, "That's fine.
That's cool.
I'm willing to do it. Let's go."
So, one thing I remember about you was you keynoted one of the KubeCons. Was it the last one or the one before that?
It was the last one. It was the one in Amsterdam. Well, the last European one, yes.
Okay, so what did you talk about?
There I talked a little bit of the evolution kind of going from a startup to being acquired by SUSE and what we've had to do. And it was kind of focusing, it was only 5 minutes, but focusing on how you need to be willing to change along, I think it was like people, product, and process was like the main topics, where it's like how you manage your teams and how you want to distribute what they're working on, and being able to iterate on that based on what the size of your company is or what your customer needs are. Same with process of, right, at a smaller place when you have just anyone, it's fine
You know,
to do whatever. But then as you grow, it's like, well, that no longer works.
yeah,
Stuff like
all
that.
of a sudden, you know, when you're a startup, that cool little logo that or that, you know, cool piece of swag that you did that kind of riffs off of some popular IP out there. Startup world, maybe they don't care about it. But when you're at a major company, all of a sudden, the legal team's not too happy about that.
Yeah, it's very similar. So, but same thing of in the product itself. It's like, okay, you might first care more about what you want to build and how you want to build, but as you grow, maybe it's a little bit more customer demanded, focused,
Exactly.
and so just trying to figure that out. So that's what the keynote was really about. It was just how do you kind of evolve with your journey of not only the startup, but how do you apply that in engineering?
Yeah, it's funny. There's always some growing pains involved, right?
I don't think yes and no. I think it's just more, to me, the growing pains are more of, a lot of people don't like change. I'm all about change. So like, for me, I'm like, okay, let's apply the change and figure out how do we work with it. And as long as we position it in a right way, then the growing pains hopefully are not so painful and people can see the benefits for them.
That's a good way of looking at it. And, you know, one of my favorite quotes is that change brings opportunity. So you just kind of, you know, kind of have to roll with the punches a little.
Yeah.
All right. I've been asking everyone, how did you get started in open source?
Oh, that's a good question. Well, Rancher was actually the first company I worked for, but really the founding team there were people I had worked with before.
Okay.
When they left our previous company, I didn't know anything honestly, about open source then. And I just asked, when you have a position available for someone who doesn't want to code but wants to be part of an early stage startup, please think of me. And then I got over there, and I've learned so much about open source. That was like now it's like 9 years ago. So it was also really early on the container like spectrum, where first day was like, what is an image? What is a container? What am I doing?
What is a Docker file?
Yeah, basically. And so I think having that open mindset of that has just kind of landed me in open source.
That's so, like, having that open mindset is so critical for success in, you know, your personal and professional life.
For sure.
So question for you. I know it's day 4 at Loft, but you're here at KubeCon. So what are some of the things that you're excited to see and learn about while here at KubeCon? Or people to meet, things to do? Just don't say AI, because that's already been talked about.
I think the biggest excitement has seen how many people have come up to the vCluster booth, the Loft booth, and just say, oh, we're using it, or oh, we've heard about it, or we heard someone else use it. It reminds me a lot of when I started at Rancher. It's like, oh, I've heard of it, or I haven't heard of it. And so having that same energy has been really exciting. And then always being able to come and see old coworkers who are now, everyone's dispersed. That's always like the best thing of a KubeCon,
Honestly,
honestly.
seeing the old coworkers is so much fun.
Yeah, it's like so great. But for me, the big one for me is meeting my team day 4 and being able to experience this. We're a remote company, and so having that in-person meetup is so important.
And I will say that I've passed by the vCluster booth a few times, and it's always packed with people and it just seems just a very happy vibe there about people who are happy to talk about the product. Again, reminds me a lot of what you said about early Rancher days.
Yeah.
That's awesome. Having a product that people like and are happy using.
Yeah.
So nice.
Yeah, it's so exciting, and it's been I haven't been so excited to work a booth in a long time because like it's exhausting. Like, right, we're all in, like, as an engineer, no one is here trained to be like, hey, have you heard, like, be outgoing. Like, that's a sales, like, right? That's sales. That's not true engineers. But it's been exciting to kind of see that. We have a couple of engineers in the booth, and watching them engage with that and having that ability is also fun.
All right. Denise, any last call outs or anything you want to promote or anything like that?
No, I don't think so. I mean, I think we've talked. I mean, I tried my best to promote my new job, day 4. But no, seriously, vCluster is like, it's a cool concept. I'm really excited joining the team and then seeing them have an open source product and them figuring out what their enterprise version is and selling it and be successful on it, and how can I help be part of that journey.
Awesome. And again, congratulations on the new gig, and I wish you all the success.
Thank you so much. Thanks for having me here.
No
It's been
problem.
fun.
All right. And see ya.